Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What a game from the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, that's a hell of a football game, right? Win or lose, like Colts aside, if you love the game of football, it just doesn't get much better than what the Colts and the Broncos just did, and really was just an excellent Sunday of football all around. I mean, even the 1 o'clock slate was absolutely fantastic, but of course, we're not here to talk about any of that. We're here to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. That's what we do. And a lot of people are going to talk a little bit about the luck that played into the win at the end of that game. And listen, I've never seen a leverage call in my entire life, okay? So fair play. But at the same time, you do have to get lucky sometimes, right? Like there's a little bit of luck required all the time. You can argue that throughout the course of that game, the Broncos got lucky on a number of occasions. Like teams get lucky in the NFL every single week to win in this league. It's not skill and skill alone. Like sometimes things just have to go your way. And for the Indianapolis Colts, that's what happened. And either way, you're talking about a Colts team now that is 2-0 for the first time since the year 2009. I was 12 years old. Colts are the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt once in their first two games. The Super Bowl era, you tell me when that started. I mean, I'm not even sure if my dad was born, right, when that started. I mean, that's how long ago that was. The Colts, as of right now, going into these Monday night games, ranked number 1 in the AFC. So, I mean, and by the way, our parlay of the week hit, right? So that was a plus 338. If you put $10 on that, you were able to pay for your pizza deliveries. So all things considered, there's a whole lot to be happy about if you're a Colts fan. Was it a perfect outing for the team? No, it wasn't. But in the words of the great and powerful Vince Lombardi, perfection is not attainable, but if you chase perfection, you can catch excellence. And the Colts most certainly were excellent in that game against the Denver Broncos. And there was just so much talk from this organization coming into this year, right, about being conditioned, being physical, playing complementary football, and finishing football games, right? How many close games did the Colts lose last year? One of the big focuses coming into this year was we have to finish these football games. And so far, those were all mantras for this team. Those were all pillars of what they were going to try to change coming into this year. And they've delivered on all of those things in a very big way, albeit only 2 games into the season. Daniel Jones, how about that? I mean, unbelievable. Listen, nobody liked the fit of Daniel Jones in Indianapolis more than I did. Well, maybe Pat McAfee did, but Pat McAfee was just happy to have anyone that wasn't Anthony Richardson, right? But I mean, coming into this game, we spoke about concerns that we had about him under pressure, right? As great as he was against the Miami Dolphins, the one thing we didn't see in that game was a whole lot of pressures on Daniel Jones. And that was something he struggled with up until this point in his career. And I was kind of concerned about it against this Denver Broncos team. He answered all of those questions and more. We'll talk about that amongst other things on the offensive side of the ball. A whole lot to like there. Shane Steichen getting a whole lot of flack about the way he handled the last drive. We'll talk about that as per usual. When everyone is viewing it one way, and that way is rooted in anger and negativity, you're always, and this is a lesson for the kids, you're always wise to view it from the other side. So we'll talk about how I felt about the way that he handled the end of that game for the Indianapolis Colts. And then on the defensive side of the ball, kind of a mixed bag. They were a little bit better in the second half. We'll talk about that performance all around, what I liked, what I didn't like, Xavier Howard, the whole bit, right? But before we do any of that, you know what it is? I got to introduce myself on this Victory Monday. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We are on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube channel. So if you keep coming back, enjoying the show, perhaps it's your first day here and you're just so happy that the Colts have won the game, hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss an episode again. Audio listeners, of course, leave a 5-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show, but most importantly, be civil with one another in the comments section. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through today. A little bit of Hoosier hospitality, right? We're all on the same team. We're rooting for the Indianapolis Colts. So if you disagree, great, but take it as an opportunity to have a discussion, right? There's no need to hurl calling people names and the whole bit. Whatever you would normally do in that situation, if you're mad, don't. Be nice to one another. That's my point. But without further ado, let's get back into business here. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. We spoke so much about the things that the Colts had to do on offense coming into this game against the Denver Broncos. One was establish the run. Now, they did come out passing the football early and often, which was a surprise to me, but ultimately Jonathan Taylor ends up with 25 carries for 165 yards. I'm no mathematician, I'm no expert, but I think that'll work, right? Another thing they had to do, control the clock. The Colts did end up winning the time of possession battle in this game, 32 minutes to 27 minutes. So they beat the Broncos by 5 minutes on that front. And then finally what we said is don't do anything stupid. And they really didn't. You know, Daniel Jones, a guy who's kind of known to be a little turnover prone, still no turnovers through 2 games with this Indianapolis Colts team, and really only maybe 2 throws throughout the course of the entire season so far that I have viewed as like really interceptable footballs. And how about Daniel Jones, huh? I mean, are you guys ready to apologize yet? Are you at least ready to admit that perhaps you were wrong about what he could bring? Perhaps you underestimated Daniel Jones just a little bit. Perhaps you had never really watched Daniel Jones play before and were just listening to what everyone else told you, right? Like that was quite possible. I mean, you are looking at the comeback player of the year here for the Indianapolis Colts. So anyone that's still skeptical about Daniel Jones, I'm not saying you don't have the right to be so, but I would recommend you get on the bandwagon now. And again, as I said at the top of the show, nobody liked the fit with the Colts for Daniel Jones more than me, but I mean, good grief. He is playing absolutely sensational for this team. And one of the things I had expressed as a potential concern coming into this game was his ability to deliver the ball under pressure. One of the things I've always appreciated, actually, about Daniel Jones' game is his precision as a passer when he was given time. Of course, we hadn't seen a whole lot of that in his career up to this point, but I've always viewed him as a guy who kind of had nuanced ball placement, right? Like his throws are layered. I think he's above average when you talk about a guy that has touch as a passer. I think that is kind of a strength of his game, but in his career up to this point, he's run into some issues when teams have been able to get after him, right? And then Vance Josephs and the Broncos knew that, and they came into this game and said, we're going to put Daniel Jones' poise to the test, right? We're not just going to let it be easy on him like the Dolphins did in week 1. They blitzed Jones on 71.1% of the snaps this week. That's the most he's been blitzed in his entire career. And forget the number, right? That's just a statistic. That's for the nerds. If you were watching the game, you did see Jones had some moments where he had to kind of make a decision, right? He had to do something quick. And again, he was 16 of 25 against the blitz, 265 yards, and a touchdown. And it just goes to show that everything is not always as it seems. The NFL always, and this is why I always say, you never, just when you think you know something about the game of football, the NFL has a way of reminding you that you don't know nearly as much as you think. And I have been on record saying that this was far more up to this point in Daniel Jones' career about confidence than it was anything else. Like a lot of people have always attributed his struggles to poor play, a lack of ability, or really a lack of ability. But for me, it was about confidence. And boy, is Daniel Jones playing with some confidence right now. I mean, his willingness to push the ball down the field is really the telltale sign, right? Like a guy that is kind of feeling the pressure, a guy that doesn't really want to make a mistake. That's a guy that's not confident. Daniel Jones is seemingly just unfazed by the possibility of making a mistake right now. Again, he's pushing the ball down the field. His willingness to target Patrick Surtain in this game. Someone got me the numbers. Do one of you guys have the numbers? How many times did he target him? Not only did he target Surtain, he had very good success against Pat Surtain, who's one of the great corners in the game of football. Daniel Jones' start for the Indianapolis Colts, there's no two ways about it, has been something to marvel at. And that Alex Smith comparison that Chris Ballard made in his press conference coming into the season, where he was taking a lot of heat about why should you trust Daniel Jones? And he mentioned Alex Smith as a guy that Daniel Jones kind of reminded him of. I mean, he has really been right on the money so far in regard to that comparison. And if you ask me at the moment, some people will say your upside is still limited with a Daniel Jones. For me, I don't know. I mean, I watch him play. There's not a single thing you would want from a quarterback that Daniel Jones does not do. Does he have the most talented arm? No, of course not. But Anthony Richardson did, and look where that got him, right? I would argue that part of the reason you see a guy like Daniel Jones making such good decisions, why he's had to develop into such a good processor. When you can't make every throw in the book, you are forced to get the absolute most of your talents, right? Like you're not going to force things like other guys with a great arm might. You are forced to play within yourself and within the offense. And Daniel Jones right now is on an absolute tear for the Indianapolis Colts. Dimebag Danny dealing the bags to the boys. Have a fucking day, Daniel Jones. Other notes on the offensive side of the ball. We can acknowledge Jonathan Taylor, right? He's a pretty good running back. What else is there to say? I mean, he could run the fucking football. That's just the truth of the matter. Alec Pierce, just an excellent game for him. And this offense really is one that has so many mouths to feed. And of course, the Colts drafted Adonai Mitchell, not this past year, but the year before in the second round. And you kind of, to some degree, do look at that as them positioning themselves to have a little bit of flexibility on re signing Alec Pierce after this season. I don't know if it's his last year with the Indianapolis Colts, but let's enjoy him while we have him because he is just excellent. I mean, you look at the way the pieces in this Colts offense fit together right now. You have someone for everything. Of course, you have the running back who can get it done. You have Michael Pittman Jr., who's great in those short to intermediate areas, right? He's kind of like a really good chain mover and a one-on-one ball winner. You have Alec Pierce, who takes the top off the defense, and then you have Josh Downs, who's a prototypical slot. Tyler Warren, of course, you can't forget about him either. I mean, Tyler Warren right now seems already like one of the better tight ends in football. And again, I'll say it week after week, and it was one of the things that was so special about him coming into the league. Like, it's no secret. He is very, very special when he has the ball in his hands. Like what he has in terms of instincts as a ball carrier, you can't teach what Tyler Warren has. And, once upon a time in the NFL, not that long ago, the tight end position was one of those that was just notoriously difficult to get right out of the draft, primarily because it's such a tough position to kind of transition from college into the NFL, because realistically, a tight end, in terms of their skill set, is sort of a mismatch, right? They're kind of a unicorn on the field in the sense that they have a little bit of the skills of a receiver in terms of the athleticism and the ability as a route runner, but also you have a little bit of that offensive lineman in them and the fact that they're physical and tough and they're going to get in there and block. And a lot of the times these guys in college, just in terms of kind of their physical acumen, are men amongst boys, and they're kind of used to that being the case. So when they come to the NFL and everyone is a man amongst men, tight ends sometimes it's kind of hard to tell how a guy will translate into the league. But now all of a sudden, you have guys like Tyler Warren, you have guys like Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, Harold Fannin, even for the Cleveland Browns this year, making an immediate impact. You wonder if this is a trend in the league moving forward. But again, I mean, Tyler Warren, what can you say about what he brings to this offense that hasn't already been said? I mean, he's kind of like a glue piece in this passing game. He's absolutely amazing. Next, the offensive line continued to play well here, clearly, right? I mean, one sack allowed. Jonathan Taylor, with whatever he did in this game, was 165 yards, if I'm not mistaken. The Broncos, keep in mind, right? Like, it wasn't just like, okay, the Colts offensive line did good. This Broncos defense, the reason this is such a big deal is they led the league in sacks in week one with 6. And of course, this was a great defense last year, so they were carrying over momentum. They also allowed the least amount of yards in the NFL in week one. They only allowed 133 yards against the Tennessee Titans. This week, the Colts put up damn near 500 yards against that same defense. And the offensive line, as much as we talk about the weapons and all the guys getting the fantasy points, the offensive line deserves a lot of credit for that. And I'm going to make sure to give it to them. And then, of course, on the offensive side of the ball, you'd be remiss to talk about it without talking about that late game management, right? By Shane Steichen, whether it was kind of the way he was calling the plays or the clock management, whatever it is that people were saying. I will say this personally. If I'm Shane Steichen, particularly on that third down, with the way Daniel Jones was slinging the rock the entire day, I personally am going to have Daniel Jones throw that thing on third down, if nothing else, right? To try to get them a little bit closer than a 58, 59-yard field goal. That being said, if you're to look at it on the flip side, if we're to be fair here, the Colts were running the ball so damn well in this game, particularly in the second half, that if you were Shane Steichen, you would kind of assume that you would end up, if you ran the ball 3 straight times, with a little bit more yards than you got. And in the case that you did drop back to throw the football and Daniel Jones gets sacked, you have absolutely zero chance at making a field goal because it goes from a 60-yarder, a 59-yarder, to kind of a 68-yard. You're talking about NFL record territory, right? So, you could say whatever it is that you want. If they dropped back and Daniel Jones got sacked, the same fans that are ripping Shane Steichen now would look at Shane Steichen and say, how can you possibly drop back and do that when JT has 160 plus yards and you're running it all over him? So you're always kind of going to be able to be Captain Hindsight in those moments. So I do think that the way Steichen's getting bashed for that moment, I think just a little bit much. Was I surprised that he didn't throw it on third down? Yes. But do I think that it was a completely indefensible way to handle that moment? No, I don't. Is it the way I would have done it? Again, no. But ultimately, when you take into account what you're seeing from this offense with Daniel Jones, it's so heavily connected to Shane Steichen's ability as a play caller. It's kind of just weird right now that after seeing what you're seeing from the Indianapolis Colts, you have a segment of this fan base that still is kind of seemingly laser focused on trying to tear this guy down as the head coach. And listen, I mean, think about what he's been able to do here, right? Daniel Jones is the best quarterback he's had with the Indianapolis Colts. You could say that that's great for Jones, and you could say that says a lot about Daniel Jones. You could also say it says a lot about Shane Steichen, right? And when you go from Gardner Minshew to Anthony Richardson to Daniel Jones, and seemingly, again, we're early here, we're only 2 games into the season, but seemingly you're able to get it done with Gardner Minshew and Daniel Jones. My advice to Colts Nation would be chill out and recognize it for what it is. You have a guy in Shane Steichen who's doing a very, very good job with this offense right now. And again, at the top of the show, we quoted Vince Lombardi, perfection, not attainable. But if you chase perfection, you end up with excellence. Shane Steichen in this offense have been excellent. Now, let's make our way to the defensive side of the ball. And before we get into the negative stuff, let's start with the good, okay? Because it's easy to get caught up in the score, right? That the Denver Broncos were able to go out there and drop 28 and really kind of do whatever they wanted in the first half, right? But this Indianapolis Colts team is a team that comes into the week missing last year's first-round pick, Laitu Latu, missing Mooney Ward, who was one of the big offseason acquisitions for this team. And I know what you might say. It's just Ward. Like, it's not that's no excuse. But I would point out that it's not just Mooney Ward that the Colts are missing in the secondary, right? Sure, it's just him coming into the week, but they're missing Justin Wally. They're missing Jalen Jones, who are the other 2 favorites to start on the outside coming into the season. So they really had a tough test here against the Denver Broncos. And after a rough first half for this defense and an opening drive touchdown from Denver to start the third quarter, this defense did not allow any more points after that point. Sure, you have the field goal attempt by Will Lutz off the right upright, but, I mean, at the same time, they did make a lot of plays when they needed to. You did have Cam Bynum with another interception in one of the great celebrations with Blue that I've ever seen. This Cam Bynum is, you want to talk about a guy that, what an addition he was. Julian Blackmon, for all the flack he got, wasn't really that bad of a safety. Like, you could have done worse than Julian Blackmon at safety. You certainly could have done better. Cam Bynum absolutely qualifies for better and then some. I mean, he's been excellent to start this season for the Indianapolis Colts, and it's just been rock solid there in the secondary. And I think a guy that keeps the energy up for them when things are going tough. I like what he brings to this team. Sometimes if you're a defense, you just got to go out there and win the damn game. In the NFL, teams are going to score. Guys are going to catch the football. But the Colts made just enough plays on the defensive side of the ball to give themselves a chance to win this game. Sometimes you simply have to put yourself in position to be in position. And then if you get lucky from there, at the end of the day, you had to be in position for that luck to ultimately put you over the top. And that's what the Colts were able to do here. Now, let's talk about some of the bad on the defensive side of the ball before I give you the rest of your day back. The elephant in the room, of course, is Xavier Howard, that poor bastard. I mean, the Broncos tested him early and often in this game, and he did not pass the test whatsoever. The Broncos, 5 of 5 when targeting Xavier Howard. He allowed 2 touchdowns. He had 2 missed tackles, one of which was in the red zone. He had pass interference calls. I believe he had 3 called against him. It was a tough outing for Xavier Howard. 32 years old, off the couch, just signed to this team 3 weeks ago in kind of an emergency signing, right? It's just a brutal outing out of him to start the game. There's no question about it. But if we're to look at it half full, what do we always say about the cornerback position, particularly when you're watching on TV? I say, if you do not see a corner with the TV view, if you don't see him a lot throughout the course of a game, chances are it's because he was good in coverage. Of course, you can't literally see the routes developing down the field because of the way kind of, the camera is, right? But ultimately, you didn't see a whole lot of Xavier Howard in the second half after a really, really bad first half. That is a good thing for the Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully, we don't know that the worst of it is behind him. Also, by the way, this kid Blackman that they got from the Vikings, I thought was pretty darn good in this game. I thought he made some plays. No, he wasn't shut down or anything like that. But ultimately, I thought he was able to come out there and make a relatively good impact. And that is what it is. Another thing on the defensive side of the ball I did not like, which was a concern to me coming into the season, was this run defense. Right now, the Indianapolis Colts are average at best against the run. J.K. Dobbins had his way against this team. I think if the Denver Broncos had committed a little bit more to the running game, it could have gone much worse for the Indianapolis Colts on the ground defensively. Now, in all fairness, J.K. Dobbins, let's give him a little bit of credit. Do you know how good of a running back you have to be to tear both your ACLs, tear your Achilles, and still be able to produce in this league the way he does? I mean, that is a hell of a fucking football player, J.K. Dobbins. He's the type of guy that we would love to have on the Indianapolis Colts. Like, he's a good player, right? So I'm not going to take anything away from him. But if you're the Colts right now, again, my concern for this team since really week 1 of the preseason, if not before that, was the fact that you do look at kind of Grover Stewart, who was out there, of course, right? But last year, the Colts went from allowing 100 yards per game on the ground, which already is not great, to 150 yards on the ground a game without Grover Stewart when he served his suspension last year. And you look at them right now and you say, all right, your linebacking group, yes, you have Zaire Franklin, but you don't exactly have a lot of hard-nosed run stuffers. And then, yes, you have Buckner and Grover, but, like, where's the beef outside of them, right? Like, if one of those guys goes down, just how much trouble are you in against the run? Like, a lot of your guys are kind of finesse guys at defensive tackle. So I would not be surprised if at some point the Colts, before the deadline, make a move for a little bit more beef on the interior of that defensive line. If I was them, I would certainly be at least exploring the market on that, because it's something in the NFL. If you're not able to stop the run consistently, you're going to run into problems. They did good enough this week, but now it's 2 straight weeks where you could just see it. Like, you could see the fact that that hole is there. Someone just has to exploit it, and hopefully it doesn't happen. It's not like I'm rooting for it. It's just something that I see. But all of that being said, the good news for this defense is that Charvarius Ward presumably will get through the concussion protocol coming up in this week. Laitu Latu seemingly doesn't have anything serious going on with that hamstring. And if those guys are out there next week against the Titans and the Colts stay humble and put in the work that they've been putting in up to this point, they should absolutely handle that Tennessee Titans team. We'll see how it goes. But that right there, that's an episode. That's a reaction to the game. The Indianapolis Colts 2-0, and we are not overreacting. We should be happy about it. This team is a force to be reckoned with. This offense, the real deal. The defense, playmaking. That's what it is. My name is Justin. This right here was the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe if you have not yet. And as always, go Colts.